Hello and welcome to another fly tying episode with Stuart Foxall. Today he's tying a Blue and Chartreuse Chinook Intruder tube fly. We're starting off with a 1.8mm yellow liner tube and a clear glitter outer tube. We're just going to connect the two tubing together with the thread, and then we're going to work our way back along the outer tube to start the tag of the fly. So for the butt or tag section here, we're going to use a opal Mirage, and it's going to form about a third of the body of the fly. Nice, close, tight turns all the way up. And when we're happy, we're just going to tie that off and then trim away the waste. Next, instead of a dubbing ball, we're going to use this piece of Chenile. It's a Chartreuse color, and we're just going to wind it so that it forms a ball, and that's going to flare our materials just like a traditional dubbing ball would. I'm just going to secure that into place. Just going to work the thread back a little bit so that we can kick those fibers backwards. Then they won't tangle in the materials too badly. Next, we're going to take some Chartreuse foxtail hair, and we're going to brush it out and then tie them in forward, winding around the body, a bit like spun hair. Then we're going to fold the materials back, and this is going to create our winged body section. So tie it in forward, fold them back, and then secure them into place. Remember, the tighter the turns that you make to the dubbing ball, the more the materials are going to flare outwards. Next, we're going to add in some flash, and we're going to build up the flash in smaller sections so that we don't spook fish, and it just helps the materials sit independently and not get tangled together. We'll tie them in folded so that we can cut through the loop and then secure them in. A nice low waist way of tying in flash. Next, we're going to take some fluorescent green ostrich or rhea HACKLE fibres, and we're going to spin these around the body as well. It may help to do this in 2 or 3 sections. We're going to tie in all of the waste fibers into the body. This is just going to help fatten the body a little bit and make sure everything is nice and secure. Next, we're going to add in a few more flash fibers. And as I said before, this just helps build the materials in a way that they can sit independently and won't get too tangled in the fly. Next, we're going to tie in some Lady Amherst hackle fibers, and this is just going to give a contrast in texture and color. Make sure they're nice and even all the way around the fly, tying in a couple of sections if you need to. Working our way back towards the dubbing ball, we'll just kick out the fibers a bit more, and then we'll secure in all of the waste fibers again, just building up the body and making sure everything is super secure, nothing is going to slip. Just neaten up the body section so that we can put our flat braid on next. We're taking a light metallic blue flat braid that's going to form the rest of the body. This is going to go almost to the end of the outer tubing here. Nice tight overlapping turns. And when you're happy, just secure it into place and trim away the waste. So for the front section of the fly, we're going to repeat the same process that we've done at the tail, but we're going to use slightly different colors and also slightly shorter fibers. Should always be longer at the back. When the materials are all the same length front and back, this is what makes intruders tend to look a bit like a blob. So same again with the dubbing ball. Moving forward now onto the last part of the outer tube, moving onto the liner tube. Fold the fibers back and just press them back with the thread there. Next, we're going to take some fox fibers again from the tail, this time in a light blue. We're going to tie it in a fair bit shorter than the rear section, but same thing again, wrap around the fly, almost like spun hair, tie it in, and then we're going to fold it back, and that will kick out all of the materials against the dubbing ball. There you can see the difference in length there, and that gives you a nice shape and profile on the fly. Next is our first section of flash, just a few different strands this time, different color, darker blue. tying in folded in half again. Next we're going to take some blue ostrich or rhea feathers and use the hackle fibres again as we did on the back, this time in blue. Wrapping around the body, potentially in 2 sections if you need to. Keep winding back towards that dubbing ball that kicks all of the materials out. And trim away the waste. And here comes the second round of flash, just one strand this time, tied in half, cut through the loop and folded back. We're just adding a few more of the Lady Amherst hackle fibres, this time in blue, for a different contrasting colour. Couple of sections again just to get the best coverage. Then we're just going to finish off this front section with a blue schlappen hackle. This is going to help push the water a little bit more. Plenty of turns until you're happy with the hackle fibre count, then lock it off and trim away the waste. You see what Stuart's doing here with the cone? We're just pushing the materials back with the front edge of the cone, and that helps compress the materials a little bit more and make that head a little bit smaller and get a few more tighter turns with the thread. And we're going to add in a couple of long jungle cock cheeks just for a bit of flair for this fly, because apparently it isn't flashy enough. And just use the cone to compress the materials again. You can decide what you would like to do with the color of the cone. Chartreuse looks quite nice, but for this one we're going to use a fluorescent orange just for a different trigger color. Finishing off with some super glue on the thread and the tube just to hold that cone in place, nice and secure. Push back as hard as you can to make sure it's nice and tight on the tube and it's not going to go anywhere. Finally, just cut off the tubing a couple of millimeters away from the cone. Use your lighter to burn down the edge, create a bit of a burr, keep that cone in place. And just using the edge of the needle to open up that hole. Make sure that there's enough room for a big heavy leader to go through it, because undoubtedly for Chinook you're going to need it. So there you are. That's the Blue and Chartreuse Chinook Intruder tube fly. If you like this video, don't forget to like and comment down below, and if you haven't before, subscribe to this channel for updates when new tying videos go up. Stay tuned for the next videos coming up soon. Tight lines.